Welcome back to Z to Z. I'm your host, Louis Picasso. We are now at episode 10. If you're a first-time listener to this podcast, we are a franchise podcast that is focused on providing information for Zs by Zs. So in celebration of our 10th episode, I want to first thank you, our Z to Z listeners, for your support and encouragement. This process has been a labor of love for sure. It's not easy to manage so much during the day and then to add a podcast show on top of it. But I love producing it. And if I can help just one person understand franchising so they can make a decisive decision on whether to own a franchise or not, it's going to be certainly well worth the late nights for sure. So again, thanks for following Z to Z. And with your continued support, I'm looking forward to many more episodes to come. So besides being my 10th episode, I also want to celebrate Veterans Day that's coming up this Friday. I want to dedicate some of our time to our great American vets today on Z to Z. So on today's show, I want to touch on opportunities for vets in franchising. I also want to dedicate this episode to my uncle who recently passed away. He was a U.S. Marine who served 2 tours of the Vietnam War. The guy was quite a bit of a character, I can tell you that. All right, so let's get into the opportunities for veterans. The question I get a lot is, what do I need to know before buying a franchise? Well, this applies to being if you're a veteran or not, and it's equally important. But for this episode, we're going to focus on just the veterans. So again, why is franchising for vets? So let's get into the data. I got some data here that is going to help us understand a little bit more about what's in franchising, what types and how many franchises are veteran-owned businesses, okay? And I'm going to there's about 20 or so of the top industries, and I'm going to probably mention only 10 of those. So I'll start from the bottom. So number 10 is finance and insurance, and accommodation. Number 9 is accommodation and food services businesses, wholesale trades, real estate and rental leasing. There is administrative support, waste management, remediation services. There's plenty of retail services as well, retail trades, health and social assistance, construction, and professional and technical services, that being about 60,000 or so veteran-owned businesses that are out there in the technical and professional services. So every industry that I mentioned here is a franchise. They are a franchise. There is a franchise for wholesale trading. There is a franchise for retail. There is a franchise for construction. There is plenty of professional and technical service franchises out there as well. So there is franchising. Franchising is available in all these industries. And, going into franchising, you're going to have a lot of opportunity. There's roughly about, I was reading and researching, there's probably over 650, I believe, franchise organizations listed on the International Franchise Association site, that's the IFA, that provide incentives for veterans want to get into franchise. So it's important to really pick which one you want. I mean, there's plenty of choices that you're going to have, but there is choices out there, and understanding the processes of deciding which franchise you want to get into is the important thing. And it's the initial and important thing. I do want to get into some interesting information that I found. By the way, we're also going to have a Q&A session. So we're going to go through the questions of a few veterans that I know that sent me some questions about franchising and what have you, and they're interested in franchising. So we're going to go through those questions, okay? But ideally, you should start researching franchise options at least 2 to 3 years before you separate or you retire. Okay. Don't feel like you rush, that you got to get into this, that you're as soon as you get out, you got to rush into something. That's not the case. Specifically for veterans, I always recommend just to take some time, research while you're still serving, and then you'll be prepared and with that decision once you get out. Okay. Obviously it's important to do your due diligence while you're still in the military. So that way, like I said, when you get out, you can hit the ground running, and you can, you can know exactly what you want to do. And during that time, you still have the opportunity to talk to franchise organizations, talk to people who understand and know franchising through franchise consultants like myself. You can always, tag me on info at z2z.com. That's info at z2z.com. Always welcome questions at any point, and I will get with you as soon as I can, usually 24 hours after I get those messages. But the second thing is always to conduct, and like I said, I always say this all the time, conduct a thorough self-assessment of yourself. So like I said, there's just thousands of franchises out there, and there's different industries. And it's important to understand, one, do you want to have a business and own a business that is in and around where you live, in the state that you live in, the city that you live in, right? It's important to understand that. If you have a family, it's really important. If you're single and you can move around, then that gives you a little bit more options, of course. But if you're coming out and you have a family, it's going to be very difficult to move your family, especially if you have kids, right? So it's important to understand where you want to start your business. That's the main thing. Once you get out, and you retire, the second thing is understanding what you like to do. What was your job in the military? And is there a franchise that's specifically focused on that, or is there one? And if not, that's okay. You can always decide what you need to do based on what you like to do, what you favor to do. And because the last thing you want to do is, when you get out of the military and you retire, you don't want to get into a business that you're not going to like. And because that's the worst thing. Trust me when I say that. That's the worst thing, that when you find out months later or years later, whatever, that this wasn't what you wanted and it's not what you thought. Obviously, you didn't do that self-assessment to really understand exactly what you needed, or you didn't do due diligence properly, or ask the right questions, right? So it's important, again, to do the self-assessment, realize what you want to do, look inside yourself, talk to your spouse. If you're not married, don't have a family, talk to a professional, talk to franchise consultants, people that understand franchising. The IFA, the International Franchise Association, is a great source. There's plenty of other resources out there that you can take a look at. One of them being the USVeteranMagazine.com. I go and I search that all the time and get information from there as well. So take a look at those resources and that way you can have the resources to understand what franchising is all about, and if it's the right fit for you, right? That's always the important thing. So the other thing is, so how do you start the process? So now you found something that you like, you're really interested, you did your self-assessment, you know that you're going to put your business in a particular city or state that you want to live in, and set ground in there. And you've talked to your wife, and you've talked to your spouse or your husband or whatever, and now you think you're gonna choose them. So what do you do, right? So obviously you got to pay for it. I mean, but the beauty of being a veteran, there's about over 650 franchise organizations, businesses, that offer incentives in so many ways for veterans. And that could be in the way of discounts on the franchise fees. There's all kinds of incentives. There's different incentives. Every franchise brand is going to have their own specific incentives that are going to be available to veterans, and so it's going to be advantageous for you to obviously let them know that you're a veteran, obviously, right? But there's also information at the U.S. Small Business Administration. They have the VBOC program, or Veterans Business Outreach Center. They have services there as well for veterans who want to get into business. And so take a look at that. That's a great program. The SBA also has loans and provides loans for franchising for veterans to finance and fund their franchise business. So go and check those out. There's a lot of opportunities there. There's many options when it comes to financing. Again, the IFA has some resources there for financing as well. And there's plenty of online companies that provide funding for that. If I would also recommend going into one of the franchise conferences. Again, the International Franchise Association has a list of conferences throughout the year. And the West Coast Franchise Show has some in your specific areas. That if there's coming through your city, your city and your state, I would take a look at that. I would go into and visit with. There is a there's sometimes a couple of hundred franchise brands within these conferences, and you can talk to all of them as many as you can, and you can get some information that you're going to need in order to make a decisive decision on which brand fits best for you and your family, right? There's also going to be services for franchisees to fund and to pay for the business that you're thinking about. And there's also there. So it's a great opportunity. Take a look, go through your local website for your particular city, Google, franchise conferences or conventions. Take a look at those. There's always great insight. And in those conferences, you can meet great people there, and you'll find all the answer that you need as well. You could always, contact me at info@z2z.com, and I will be glad to provide you with any information you need in regards to that. I also have resources as well to financing as well, and even to franchise brands as well. So if you need help with that, always reach out to me at info@z2z.com, and I'll be more than willing and happy to help as best as I can. So now one of the things that's important is, okay, so now looking at funding, you got your spot, what you're going to do, and how you're going to get that. All right. So we talked about finances, and this goes across the board. It doesn't matter if you're a veteran or not. When you start the process of looking into different franchise brands, they're required to give you the FDD, which is the franchise disclosure document that includes the franchise agreement in there. And it is vitally important for you to research that, to read that, to get a professional to read it for you, a franchise attorney, and to read that for you. Now, you can do it yourself, but if you're not 100% sure of the language that's in there, and you're confused and you have questions, it'd be best to either get with a franchise attorney to decide and help you with that process. That's always a good idea to do. But that goes across the board, whether or not you're a veteran or not. You got to understand that franchise agreement, because the franchise disclosure document, you're obligated to read it and understand it. The other thing is they also give you the opportunity to take a look at to talk to other franchise owners, right? And do what they call the validation calls. So once you get the FTD, we talked about this before in my previous episodes. And again, this is across the board, whether or not you're a veteran or not, but it's always a good idea to research and do some validation calls, which means calling existing franchisees within that system and ask them the questions that sometimes the brands can't answer. The franchisors can't answer that. Well, if you talk to the existing franchisees that are in that brand, they can provide you with information that most likely the franchise, or at least more insight than the franchise can ever do, right? So it's important to do that. The other thing is while you're doing your validation calls, always continually understand what your options are. Okay, keep your options open is what I'm saying. Ask the question is, am I the right person to be in a franchise, right? So I used to ask people when I used to work as a franchise developer, people used to ask me, I used to ask them actually, what is it that you want to do? Why is it that you want to be an entrepreneur? Why is it that you want to be in the franchising? Well, they said, well, I want to start my own business. I want to do my own hours. I want to be able to go and come as I please. And if I want to take a vacation, I can. If I want to open up at 10 in the morning and close at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I want to be able to do that. Well, that's really not, franchising is not going to be a fit for that particular type of person, because you have to follow a model. And sometimes if you're on if you don't want to follow a model, then franchise is not best for you. Franchising actually fits perfectly for a veteran, because the veterans come out of a structured environment and right into another structured environment, and that's what they're used to. And so franchise brands are always looking for veterans for their franchises. So it's a great fit in that regard, but you still got to understand, you're following a model. There's a required model, and that's what you're paying for, is for that model. You're not creating the widget. And then from that model, you're going to create the success that you're expecting. If once you follow that model, and to see whether or not franchising is right for you, or if not, that's okay too. You can always start your own widget, or if you want to open up that own food truck that you always wanted, but it wanted to do it under your own terms, by all means, do that. Do that. Don't think that franchising is the end all. It's not. It's comes down to what you want to do and what's best for you at the time, for you and your family, right? So make sure you understand that part of it. And also research the area. It's always good to research that particular brand, research the competition in your area. We're looking at financing. We already kind of pinned things down. The area that you want to be at is where you live, in and around that area. So what does the competition look like for whatever that is, right? So whatever that brand is, whatever that service that you're going to be providing, what does the competition look like, right? And so in this particular case, it's important to really, as a veteran, to start the process of looking for your next franchise business. Like I said, at least 2 to 3 years before you're going to get ready to retire, and to leave the military and move on to civilian life. That way, when you get out, you're going to be that much more prepared to get into the next business. So it's always great. Also, part of the VetFan program, there's a veteran transition franchise initiative from VetFran, and that was established by Don Joyer, formerly from the Dreyer Group. Now he's founder of the Neighborly Group. It's a big conglomerate. Check them out. Look at what they have to say. They great opportunities. I think they probably have done. I think they've awarded, if I'm not mistaken, something around over $2 million in discounts, to about over 300 or so veteran franchise owners. That's great. That's great numbers. And there's probably about 500 franchisors that are currently participating in that particular program. And about 6,300 veterans have acquired a franchise business through that program. Okay. So check it out. VetFran program, Veterans Transition Franchise Initiative by VetFran. That's vetfran.org. So take a look at them, and research that. It's some great information that I think you'll enjoy to have, and go from there. So yeah, I think, I've spoken to several, veterans who thought about getting into franchising. Some of them are working, some of them are, got executive jobs, some of them have, technical jobs and trades that they do. And they've always told me, Louis, I'm interested in this franchise thing. I just don't ever know how to do it. So what I did is I asked them, a few of those folks that I know, I said, just think of questions that you have, send them over to me. And then I'll take some of those and I'll answer them during our show. Let's take a look at some of these questions that they sent out. So let's go here to Bill. So okay, so what is the safest way for me to get a small business loan? And we talked about that. All right, Bill. So we talked about that. You going over through your U.S. Small Business Administration has a great resource that's your initial resource to go in. A lot of franchise organizations that you're going to be talking to, ask them for, do they offer financing, first of all? Usually, there is some that do offer in-house financing, but the majority of them have their SBA approved, so they have a great relationship with the SBA, and especially if you're a veteran, they're going to send you right over to their SBA associate or person or contact person within the SBA to start the process for the loan. So that's the go-to one. Everybody goes through the SBA. Also, the other alternatives to find out about loans, small business loans, is to visit conferences, franchise conferences in your local area. You'll have great information there. They will have a slew of companies that offer loans, small business loans and loans in general for franchises. And of course, there'll also be franchise brands there as well. So that's something that you can do. I hope that helps. Another question by Jim. Louis, does the VA offer business loans? Well, good question. The VA does not lend money for business purposes, nor for any. Basically, they're not in the business of lending money. So it's no. So short answer is no. They do not. They will refer you over to the SBA, but really, so they don't. They will refer you over to the SBA to handle that. So so once I have my franchise, is there any tax breaks for myself or my company in hiring veterans, other veterans? I want to be able to hire other veterans for my upcoming franchise. Yes, you do get tax breaks. There is what they call the Hire Heroes Act of 2011 that made changes to the Work Opportunity Tax Credit, or WOTC. And so by hiring, you are eligible for credits. Now, I am not a CPA or a tax attorney, but I would consult with your CPA, your tax attorney, because I know there is credits available to you if you hire veterans. Okay. So take a look at that. So the short answer is yes, there is tax breaks for companies that hire veterans. And so again, talk to your CPA, talk to a tax attorney. They will be able to help you with that and give you a little bit more insight and detail on what that particular credit is and how that will affect you as your business. So that is good. So the other question, where should I start? What logical place should I start? Consult with other business owners that you may know, whether or not they're in franchise or not, but at least consult with somebody. And if you're in the military, I would talk to a confidant, somebody that's in the military that you can trust. I know they have support services within the military that they will help you transition out and send, when you want to get into civilian life. And I know that there's some support there as well. But it's important to really start with yourself, start with your family. What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish as in your goal in the next 5 to 10 years? I always tell people, listen, when they get into business, one of the first things I ask them is, what does your end strategy look like? What does that look like? And they look at me like, Louis, I haven't even opened up yet. Why are you asking me about what my end strategy is going to be? And it's important to understand that, because you got to set your business in a direction, and what that direction is going to be look like for you. Is it going to be, are you going to hold your business for 10 or 20 years and then sell it? You're going to be holding it as a legacy for your kids to take over at one point. Um, what is it that you want to do with that? And so you have to start the business going in that direction now. You just can't say, I'm going to open the business and I'm going to hope for the best, because that's not going to work. You're going to have a direction. Your business plan is going to dictate. If you have a business plan, you should have a business plan, and you should help you dictate where you want to go. Okay. So, and I know that as being a veteran, it's important to stay structured. It's important to plan ahead. And I have said this before in the past episodes, is if you're interested in a particular brand, okay, let's just say it's a restaurant or a fast food place, right? And it's a fast food franchise. If you have one in your area, go visit it. Check out the food. Check out the process. If you have an ability to sit down in that in that establishment, sit down and have your lunch or your dinner in that establishment. Take a look at the process. Take a look at everything around you. And if that's something that's intriguing to you and you want to take it the next step further, ask to talk to the manager. And then tell the manager, hey, listen, just tell them, be straight up with the manager. Listen, I'm interested in a franchise in this particular brand. Is there anybody I could talk to, the owner, the franchisee, that can kind of give me some insight on that? Now, sometimes they'll agree, no problem. Sometimes the franchisees may be there if you're lucky, depending on the situation. But go and visit the franchise that you're interested in, participate in. Good friend of mine who owns an F45 franchise, he was a client of F45, and he really liked the concept, liked going there, liked everything about them, and he was asking around, asking the managers, I guess he was talking to the franchisee as well, and he got really interested, and now he is in the process of owning that. Matter of fact, we will visit with him. We're going to visit with him every quarter. This is his first year, so we're going to visit with him in December, and to catch up with him and see how things are going with him and his franchise and building up that franchise. So I'm excited to talk to him. But yeah, those are the kind of things that you should take a look at before you dive into a franchise. It's a long-term obligation. Most franchise agreements are average between 7 and 10 years, on average. So you're committed. You're committed, and you're not only committed with your time, but you're committed financially as well. And your family is committed with you as well, along with that ride. So it's important to make the decisions of what you're going to need to do. So thank you for listening to Z to Z. It's always, you can listen to all the previous episodes on Z2Z.com or on your favorite podcast channel. As always, I like to close with a favorite quote. Our debt to the heroic men and valiant women in the service of our country can never be repaid. They have earned our undying gratitude. America will never forget their sacrifices. And that's by President Harry Truman. Until next week, have a good night. Bye-bye.